Call this, sorry, I got a lot of wires. Call this meeting of the New Shoreham Town Council to order. Today's Wednesday, December 18th. It is 6:03 p.m. Uh, First, six matters are proposed for closed session. I know that we've discussed, which number is the wall? The wall. Number four. I know we've done that in open session, so I would suggest we, unless, what do you think, Amy? No? Do you think you've been in touch on this, so you give us your wisdom. Are we going to get strategic advice from council? Well, we can decide when we get there. Yeah. Okay. Great. Can I have a motion to go into closed session, please?
So moved, excluding item number 4.
Yes. Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We're in closed.
Okay. Yeah, I just
you need bigger shoes to kick me under the table if I get these motions wrong.
You know. Amy, was this your copy of the non-disclosure? You want it back? It's oh, okay. Great. Just point out for you, for future reference, Blake's the only one that signed this. Paul's the
Hi,
one.
Nancy, you're still on, you're on,
Oh, interesting. Hey, Evan, how are you, man? It's David Lewis, as I live and breathe. How are you? How is the Messiah? That's the last time I saw you when you were on the boat over to go see it. More importantly, how was the hockey game? How was the hockey game? How was the hockey game? That's the more. Uh, hello, everybody. Bill, are you ready? Fantastic. Hello, everybody. As you saw from our agenda, we had a number of things on a closed session agenda. The council decided to take up number 4, discuss and act on potential litigation regarding wall constructed on town property, to do that in open session. Items 5 and 6 will be discussed at a meeting in early January. Probably maybe its own freestanding meeting. 2 motions were made. One on item number 1. Excuse me. Yes. Did we have to vote on that? Did we vote on that? Yeah. Motion was made and seconded to direct our land use solicitor to sign those the 2 agreements that are referenced in the agenda item. I believe the motion was made by Councilor Dodge and seconded by Councilor Payne. The vote was unanimous, but all those in favor indicate by saying aye. So we do it on the record. Aye. Opposed, no. The second item was on the potential acquisition of real property, Plat 10, Lot 30-7. Motion was made by Councilor Dodge, seconded by Councilor McComb, to wish the Land Trust and Affordable Housing Board well as they work together on a potential project, but that the town at this time does not currently have the money to contribute. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And then finally, on the International Brotherhood of Police Officers, this is a bit of a quirky one. Probably 18 months ago, was it, Amy? 2 years ago? There was a pension contribution snafu. An agreement was reached with the IBPO, but neither party has the executed agreement, even though some of us who were serving on the council can vaguely remember voting on it. So we were asked by our labor solicitor to execute that agreement again, and that motion was made and seconded by Councilor McComb and Councilor Payne to execute pension payout agreement with the IBPO. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Is there any public comment tonight? Chris?
Yes. Like, I came here yesterday, an item on the agenda, and much to my surprise, I have limited experience with open meeting rules. And, quoted here in the beginning is Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5. A2. Sessions pertaining to litigation or reasonably anticipated. That's it. There's no such wording in state law. So I don't know who wrote that or who slipped that in there, but those are what I call reasonable words. You could basically drive a truck through there because I could reasonably anticipate litigation. It says either collective bargaining, and I have the definition right here. sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation. So I think it would be nice if you would just clean that up, and I don't know when that reasonably anticipated, it should get out.
Thank you. So we'll go to what had been number 4 on the closed session agenda. Discuss and act on potential litigation regarding wall construction on town property, Plat 3, Lot 128. James, do you want to bring us up to, should we start with you? You want to bring us up to
Sure.
speed, please? Thank you.
Definitely. Good to see everybody tonight. This is regarding the wall that was built on town property on the identified lot. We've reached out to the property owner's attorney. It looks like the owner is not interested in moving the wall, but is interested in reaching some kind of agreement that allows the use, does not affect title, and maybe an easement of some sort. Also, he's willing to give some kind of donation to the town, whether it's the library or something else. Our question for you tonight is whether you'd like us to file suit to have the wall removed or to negotiate an agreement based on their suggestions.
And James, just so we're clear, when we last discussed this, Amy, we talked to you about talking to Mike Shea about simply moving the wall.
Yeah, and Mike is not inclined to just move the wall without the formality of the court order directing him to do so, and making it clear what the process and procedure is for that. So that was Mike's feedback.
Great. So the next step for the town to take it would be to file, what would that be? A motion in Superior Court?
Correct. It'd be like an ejectment action almost, to get the wall, in order to get the wall removed by the court.
Great. Any comment from the council about this? Any thoughts?
Just a quick question to James. Have you had conversations with their attorney, or is this?
It's been through email and in conversations. The attorney is Bob Flaherty. He's very present in court, things like that. So we've seen him around.
Because the starting point of all of this from the Anderson standpoint was a lack of conversation with anybody who would return their calls when this issue came up with a town employee. So, you know, I'd feel much more comfortable at least before initiating litigation, even if it's voted to initiate litigation, that there be some conversation between individuals on this subject before we take that leap. But that's just my suggestion, because conversation and lack of conversation was sort of at the root of a lot of this.
So James, is your general course of action when you pursue something like this to call, in this case, the Andersons' lawyer and say, look, the town council voted to authorize me to pursue litigation. Do you want to have one more conversation about this?
Yes, we'd be happy to.
Okay.
All right. Well, then I would make a motion to authorize litigation on this matter. Is there any discussion?
Mm-mm.
If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All right, our consent agenda. One change to the consent agenda. I had a request because we have a meeting with our lobbying group and with the lawyers to review all of the litigation, to hold off on, take them off of this list and do that later, after that conversation. So this would be everything but, does this help, Millie? Everything but May 4th and legal representatives.
Do you need a motion to do that? Is that what you're looking
I was
for?
just waiting for people.
Oh, yeah.
it sort of felt like people might be looking at it. I was playing vibes. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, please?
Oh, no, my question was, do you need a motion to pull those
I don't know.
two items out?
Ask the woman who knows it. stuff.
Yeah,
I think in the past, we've just pulled items
Yeah.
and then they're addressed separately.
Great,
okay.
terrific.
So I do have one other question. before we
Yes,
Go
yes,
ahead.
yes.
When we talk about opening closed session minutes, who makes that determination? Who decides which minutes, which closed session minutes go on an agenda to be opened or not?
I know that Millie sends me an email saying, here are the ones that are eligible. I don't know whether
Yeah,
eligible.
I did. I sent Keith a collection of items. I went through every closed session meeting minutes from 2003 and 2004 since this last council. And I flagged the items that that I felt like could be opened. I sent them to Keith first, or I sent them to Keith, and he then gave me a final determination.
And the solicitors were, I know that I CC'd Nick on my reply.
In the future, though, shouldn't the board be making that decision? The minutes, the town council, no, the minutes should go to the town council, and town council, all of the minutes.
They are in front of you now.
Right,
So this is your opportunity to
right.
open or not.
But in the future, you'll be sending them to the entire council.
I can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's perfect.
So my question, which I think you just answered, was I was wondering whether there were any that either of you felt or those solicitors felt shouldn't be opened, but obviously you guys have already green lighted all of these.
Yeah, Amy did not see them.
Okay, but you and the town solicitors and then Keith have green lighted all of these. There didn't seem to be anything in anything I read.
Yes.
Okay.
Those, some of, because I don't have my list right here. There was, I think there were two sets of those minutes that was only one portion was going to be disclosed. Those minutes are not on Clerkbase right now. They're going to be kind of reworked and dropped into the open session minutes. So I think that there might be one or two items there that are mixed in, because you have some sets of minutes that include 4 or 5 items or 3 or 4 items. And I think I have maybe 2 sets of minutes that I'm going to be pulling 2 sets of things that are still open. And you would know that from reading that. But I'm sorry, it wasn't as clear as.
Yeah, and that may
Right.
answer my question, because one of them made reference in the announcement to a grievance, and there was nothing in the minutes that referenced that. So these are things that you've pulled out already? Okay,
Yeah, anything that I pulled out, anything that wasn't going to be.
so I guess my next question is, can we then get if there are any minutes from 2000, what did you say, 23?
23 and 24.
23 and 24 that are still closed, can you send us copies of those so that we can then see the basis for keeping those closed?
I can. I'm not sure of my obligation, of the obligation of keeping them sealed or not to those that weren't included in the discussion. And if I get direction, I will gladly.
Can we
do.
ask James?
Absolutely, please.
Yeah, I think that the council is fluid, so any closed meeting minutes that were previous can be accessed by the current council.
That's what I thought.
It's
Yeah,
often
Thank you.
It was
Well,
the only one.
I'm happy to,
Yeah.
I'll send them all.
okay.
Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved.
I have a presumably easy question on the harbor management plan. So let me just open the document. On page 2 of the document, the cover letter, I should say. There are some requirements there that sort of sound like they're new. It's loading. There it is.
Yes.
I guess it's the bottom of page 1. The town shall commit to assessing all mooring areas within their jurisdiction each year to confirm the use of moorings confirm that the use of moorings does not include liveaboard activity, which is the case with destination type mooring fields. I take that to mean no liveaboards for durations for people who aren't other than transients in all of Great Salt Pond. Am I misreading that? And what does that really mean?
Do you want to answer that, Amy?
When
Because I know that Kate has been working on this issue specifically quite a bit, so I
Yeah, and I do believe that is state level language.
Yes.
That is a requirement
Mm.
of their approval of the harbor management plan.
and I think the deal is you can leave your boat in if it has insurance, but you may not live aboard. Those are two different things, right?
Those are two different things, and you're talking about the intersection of our local ordinance.
Yes.
Where we define how to comply with the practical
Yep.
aspects of our harbor and the state language, which is more rigid.
I don't have a problem with it if it's taken to verbatim. I don't have a problem with it either way. It sounds pretty direct to me, and I just want to really know. And I'm sure I'm hearing a precise answer. Do we really know?
Well, I'll give you my sense, which is worth probably not even a cup of coffee at Oddfellows. But my sense is that Kate, to her great credit, has been working on liveaboards on moorings for a few years now. And has, in all good ways, tried to be kind to people for whom that is their sole home, by dealing with things like insurance and, appropriateness of the vessel and mechanical soundness of the vessel. And my sense is that we may not have any more that are liveaboard. I'm not sure.
I also believe how we use the phrase liveaboard in our sort of practical community
Yeah.
is different than how it is often used in the statutes.
Oh, really?
And
Interesting.
so we
Didn't know
use it more casually
Yeah,
to describe a broader range of experience.
right. So we provided you with no answer.
Yeah, well, that's
But I appreciate the question.
that
Read that when it was that you couldn't stay on a town mooring. Maybe I'm wrong. The way I read it was that you couldn't stay on a town mooring all summer, that you had to move. Did I read that incorrectly?
That is I believe that is a provision, but not related to liveaboard necessarily.
and I was really thinking it applied more to private moorings, the so-called private moorings, residential and non-residential.
Right, but that's the part I'm remembering reading specifically referred to public rental moorings. Maybe you're reading something different than what I'm recalling.
I'm just reading what's
Yeah,
what's
I
supposed
don't have it in front of me right
Uh,
now, but I did.
we don't need to belabor it for my benefit, I don't have any problem, I've had great faith in Kate in doing the right thing. But I thought it just needed some clarification. Thank you.
Either way, it's been approved, so, whatever it is.
Exactly. Good thing is in 2 years, we'll have to rewrite it. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, please? Second,
Second.
all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Can I have a motion to open a public hearing on the New Shoreham zoning ordinance Article 2, please? Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're now in public hearing. This, for people who are here and watching at home, is item number 9. Karen, would you like to describe this to us, please?
Sure. As you all
Briefly.
know, there have been a lot of statutory changes. This is not one of them. This is something different. The
We now return you to our regularly scheduled program.
exactly. Glad to say that we're going back to normal, maybe. So there was some confusion on a couple of applications that came before the planning board, and that confusion surrounded language under your section 406, which is commonly referred to as your large house ordinance. Houses over a certain size need some special consideration. The language that was causing a bit of an issue had to do with elevated decks above the first floor and the anchoring of those decks. What was problematic is it was just difficult for both, I think, applicants and the board to come to agreement on what that meant and what visually it would be depicted as. So the planning board has proposed an ordinance amendment for your review and hopefully passage to clear up any remaining ambiguity. That is the language that is under 406. There's a sentence, or it's like 2.25 lines stricken with some new language there. And then also adding definitions to the ordinance for balcony, deck, and porch. And again, the purpose is just to clear up any ambiguity and make it easier for applicants to know what's expected.
I have a quick question, Karen, just to, is the 1,200 square feet, I'm assuming that is a total of all balconies and decks?
Yeah, but now that you're asking that, I want to make sure that I see what you're seeing.
It says
Yes,
may not
balcony.
exceed a total of 1,200 square feet, but I just want to make sure that's not a balcony cannot exceed 1,200 square feet, but basically all of the decks and balconies cannot exceed 1,200 square feet. Do you follow me?
I do. And I'm just reading the language that was stricken, which says in no case shall the total area of an elevated deck exceed 1,200 square feet. It would be my interpretation that it was meant to be consistent with the prior language as to the 1,200, which would be as to a single elevated deck, not total of all decks.
I got to be honest with you, that's a lot of deck. I have a hard time. I mean, I wouldn't mind if you could have a total of 1,200 square feet of decks. Even that, quite frankly, seems like a lot to me. But you could theoretically, I know the wall plane rules are, but you could theoretically have thousands of square feet of decks.
It would still be subject to planning board approval, but you're right. And it's within the council's purview to add language or change it if you want to.
Not having been privy to the hearings and the discussion, I don't know how I missed this one. I usually go to planning, but I'm loath to do that without, frankly, getting feedback from members of planning about it. I just you know what I mean?
Yeah, you make a really good point. And the fact that it's plural in the language that is being proposed versus the language that is being stricken does create a little bit of confusion on that issue. You could read it either way.
Karen, what do you think the when it was proposed, the intention was?
I believe the intention was to be as consistent as possible with the existing language, which is now being stricken, but to provide additional clarity. But to Keith's point, it is interesting to me that plural balconies, decks, and other similar flat unroofed features, plurals, are used in the new language. So I think it could be read either way.
So is it possible for us to send it back and ask planning for clarification on that point?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm also, I had that, and I also had the idea that it was ordered at a minimum of 2 sides by exterior walls. I mean, is that, am I missing something? I mean, that was part of the,
Geometry was a long time ago for me, Nancy.
yeah.
And I think that that was part of the original problem. It can be difficult to put into words what is being imagined. So it certainly, if we're going to go back to planning, let's go back and ask that question as well. I would just want to make sure I understand that particular question. It's as to the language, including maximum of 2 sides with guardrails. Did I get that right, Nancy?
Well, I think that section, I think that is almost a code, like how you have to go about anchoring it,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
as opposed to what's permitted. In other words, it's like a building technique. That's how I read that, but.
And Karen, is it possible for, for those of us that are, when it comes to building, are more visual than anything else, that there is actually a design that prompted this, or a picture that would show what exactly they're talking about?
I'm sure there is. And if it's the I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's the desire of the board. I can certainly make that recommendation that maybe some images be included in the draft ordinance. It's not uncommon to have images in a zoning ordinance.
And I think that would give us a better sense of the 1,200 feet
Yeah,
too.
I think that's right, Nancy. Yeah. All right, is everybody comfortable with that approach? Can I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Let's see. Can I have a motion to open a public hearing? Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Karen, is this one yours too? Oh, no, this
No,
is
this is
Seward.
Dylan's. Yeah,
Dylan.
Dylan, get your
Yep.
behind up here. Thank you, man. It was really,
Of course.
thank you for your presentation this afternoon. It was
A-
terrific.
Absolutely.
Great
No,
stuff.
no problem. So this is my first proposal here for an ordinance change, so bear with me. The proposed amendment, should I introduce myself for the
Yes,
record?
for the
My name's
record, you're
Dylan
correct.
Chase, New Shoreham Sewer Superintendent. Proposed amendment to New Shoreham General Ordinances, Chapter 19 Utilities, Article 4 Sewer Allocation and Cost, Section 19-465 Contributions in Aid of Construction. Essentially, the proposed changes to the ordinance are to reflect the goal of clarifying language to accurately capture the procedure for calculation and distribution of the sewer allocation, and to reflect a policy change specifically to eliminate the discounted rate for priority projects, as was discussed in specific sessions between the council and the New Shoreham Sewer Commission. The perceived discounted rate is seemingly a subsidization of public projects by private ratepayers, and we would like to eliminate that to make the rate standardized for all purchases.
We have done this on water. Am I
And this has
correct?
been
Yes.
reflected in
Yep.
water policy. And you can see that strike through on, I think it's paragraph 3, contribution to be made by each person adding sewer flow, et cetera. Section A or Part A, Part B, use in priority categories 4A, multiplier of 0.25, which would be the 75% discounted rate, and all other uses would be using a multiplier of 1. Obviously, with the elimination of A, all multipliers would be 1, so that
Right.
would be removed as well.
Dylan, you said you did this with the water also?
Yes. Furthermore, the goal is to bring the ordinance's language up to reflect modern contexts of the calculation and distribution procedure, to protect the integrity of the calculation in the future without having to revisit another change in the ordinance For example, to remove the context of sewer usage regarding the design capacity of the sewer facility in 1988, as the design capacity is subject to change by Rhode Island DEM. And the design capacity has increased since 1988, specifically 2008, from 300,000 to 450,000 gallons per day. The design capacity may change in the future, therefore stating design capacity in general will allow the ordinance to be applied to any design changes in the future, although I don't foresee any design changes in the near future.
Don't leave. Are you comfortable with this? Because I know you're about as intimately involved in a lot of these rate making policies. Yes.
Okay,
Are you happy with it, Dylan?
I am. Yeah. And then further changes in the language would include removing the term building official to reflect accurately the current procedural authority for determining gallons of allocation, and to redefine the peak season as June through August rather than July through September. Again, to accurately define the definition of peak season
that
that
what
is
you see?
currently used.
Is that what you see?
That is
It's
what,
now June through.
that is what's
June.
currently being utilized by Jim Jeremy in the calculation.
What do
of
you
CAC.
see? I'm sorry.
What do we see as
Yeah.
peak season?
Yeah.
I mean, we could argue it both ways.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
I'm not challenging.
I could argue it both ways personally. I'm just trying to reflect the actual calculation procedure.
Sure. Yeah, I know.
Right.
I was digressing.
Yes,
Although
I follow. That could make it
does peak
complicated.
season need to be 3 months or could it be June through September? Would that reflect what you're seeing as far as flow?
I think that would have to be a discussion that would have to take place between Jim, Amy, and everyone. At this point, we're only using and I believe it is based on the 90-day period
Okay.
that is referenced in the design capacity
Oh.
specifics.
Right,
So,
right.
so I don't,
Makes sense. Yep.
yeah,
Gotcha.
there's, okay.
Yep.
Is that clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then finally, the large allocation purchases of 2,000 gallons or more will be brought to the commission level for final approval. Again, this language reflects a standard policy on the water side as well.
Yep.
So that would, of course, should be included in the ordinance as well.
Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah.
Any questions for Dylan about
Thank you.
this? You're square and Amy's square, I'm square.
Yep.
I would make a motion to approve this ordinance.
Second.
There, any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Can I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Now we are on discuss and act on board, commission and committees. I want to say, Millie, moved back down to number 11.
I did pretty well hitting it up that high.
Of course, when I see Corey and when you see Corey, thank her for her participation in coastal resilience. She spends a lot of time on the water and really cares about this stuff. And I'm sorry she's moving off.
Can I just ask, don't we as a practice, when someone resigns, send them a letter thanking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
okay, thank you.
I just want to be able to, when I see Corey, say,
Say,
did you
did you
hear
get the
everything I
letter?"
said about you?
Judy Gray, the chair of the Coastal Resilience Committee. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm here, is to make sure that we all understand that we really appreciate Corey's service. It's just a matter of timing and, our scheduling for our meetings.
Yeah.
That made it really difficult. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So we have to announce emergency management agency.
Well-
did we vote to accept her resignation?
What's that? No, we don't have to vote.
For Corey's?
No, we don't.
Okay. I'm gonna recuse on this next.
Yeah.
Oh, for EMA. Gotcha.
This was pulled out of the,
Consent.
all the other appointments at my request so that we could discuss a little bit further.
Good.
Previously, Bill McComb and Pete Gemp have served as co-EMA directors. That position is defined in the charter as responsive and appointed by the town manager with the advice and consent of the council. And so given Bill's current position on the council, that creates a little bit of a stickiness. It is my preference and my recommendation that he continue in that role along with Pete, given his experience and his excellent working relationship with the
Yeah.
fire chief, the police chief, the state EMA coordinators, and with Pete as well. But I do believe that we have to go through an ethics process. And so my recommendation is that you appoint Pete as co-EMA director, Bill as co-EMA director, but subject to a discussion with the Ethics Commission.
Okay.
Or we can hold that appointment would be the alternative, but
And is that a request that he has to make, or can the town make it on his
I
behalf?
actually believe it's the town's request, similar to when sitting council members have continued to serve on town boards
So-
as a hardship based on our narrow population.
Just for what it's worth, what we've done in the past, I remember specifically with Martha, for example, on HDC, there is room for us to assert that there's, if I recall the language,
Yeah.
it's for a specific period for a specific purpose.
Yes. And so that would be my intention here.
Would you be making that assertion, or would we?
I
Just because of the appointing authority?
believe that's a great question. So I may need some technical guidance from the Ethics
Okay.
Commission.
Sure.
They tend to help you structure
I mean,
your
you know our
request.
intention here, we're not trying, we're just
If I
trying to
have the
do it
council's
clean.
blessing and the flexibility to phrase that on behalf of the town, if that's necessary.
I would make a motion to, would you like us to move the appointments? Would you like us to offer our support for you to go forward with ethics? What would you like?
I would like the council's support to go forward with the ethics process. And at the very least, the appointment of Pete as a
Mhm.
co-director. And then you can decide whether you.
Do you feel like it would help you if you could say to ethics that the council has indicated that it supports keeping Bill McComb on?
Sure.
Then I would make a motion to ask you to press on with ethics and make a motion to support the appointment of Pete Gemp and Bill McComb as co-EMA directors.
Well, Bill, subject to
Subject to.
the ethics.
Subject to ethics.
Yeah.
Is there a second? You second.
Is that okay?
Is that good?
Yeah.
Discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
Opposed,
you.
no? Guys have it.
Okay, good.
Harbors Committee. All right, where are we? We have one vacancy? I see that.
Do we
Yep.
have one or two openings on here? I believe we have two.
I think we might have two, but I think we have one letter of interest.
And so Gary Pollard indicated a willingness to continue to serve. That's what we have on clerk
But
base.
do we, if we have other letters of interest, I'm thinking about like what one of our department heads said today about
100%,
freshening up.
100%.
I also am thinking about harbor committee meetings that I have attended where they haven't had a quorum because that person didn't come to the meeting.
You know, the thing that put the spring in my step this week was knowing that Eben was willing to serve on harbors. How was that? Was that good?
I think you should make him show us this spring.
We definitely do.
But we also have Dave Helterline, a letter. So if we have two spaces.
In the consent agenda, we had a Harbor's appointment.
Of Bill, of Littlefield.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
On the harbor.
Yeah, we have, right, you're right. This is
Committee
the alternate.
alternate,
Okay.
Robert Littlefield. Bob Littlefield.
Right. Okay. All right. So this is just. Right. So you do, yes, so you do have 2 vacancies on Harbor. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought he was going to that.
Where did the vacancies come from on the Harvest Committee? Like where were the openings?
You have to, you have to use
You-
the
you have-
microphone.
You have to be recognized to use the mic.
My question was just, where were the, openings occupied, or who were the openings occupied on the Harvest Committee by prior? The 2 openings? Or the 2 vacancies?
I'm just going to pull up the on board. So I'm,
I know the harbor master told me they had one. They had one opening.
Well, and
I
the,
just
the
checked
the
with-
notice is that Gary Pollard's position
I'm only asking
expires
'cause-
in December, so technically there is a
That-
slot.
So
whether
there
he-
is a slot.
Yeah.
So we could appoint David, and I just want to be clear that we're not over appointing here.
and yeah, can you just give me 1 moment and I'll
Of course.
go pull up on board. I just want to make
Take
sure
your
that I'm
time.
accurate.
I was just curious because I was confused and I was told by Kate there was an opening last year. And that was when I had originally wrote the letter of consideration.
saw that.
And then it turned out that it actually was full. So just out of curiosity, I was just wondering who.
I'm sure there is an opening this
Yeah.
time because Kate.
So
told me that.
there's been, the practice, there has been the practice of reappointing the previous members if they were interested. They're always brought to the council to make
Yeah.
that decision. In this case, this year, we have Rob Littlefield as the alternate, which was appointed under the consent agenda.
Yeah.
And we have a vacancy for Andrew Dowdwell,
Oh,
and Gary Pollard. So we
okay.
have 2 vacancies on the board.
So we could, a motion would be in order to appoint Evan and David Helterline.
It's up to you. Andrew, or is it Andrew
Andrew Dodwell, I think.
Andrew Dodwell did also express his interest when it's a practice of the clerk's office to check in with every appointee who comes up for expiration. And then we present you with this, and the ones in yellow have said
Yep.
that they were interested in continuing to serve. So
Right. Do you
So
have to
we
s-
would be,
it's easier
we
to
would be
s-
appointing
once it's easier
3
to see on
people
the computer.
you've already appointed one under for the alternate position.
for the alternate position.
And
right?
then there's 2 vacancies. You had a response from Andrew Dodwell saying that he would like to continue to serve. You've had a response from Gary Pollard saying he would like to continue to serve. That's the other potential vacancy. You have then a letter from Eben, you have a letter from Dave Helterline, and you have a letter, and that's it, for those 2.
So
Okay, so just to
okay.
clarify, if we were to just reappoint people who are on the board, we would have no openings.
Okay, so the vacancies are from Andy and from Gary Pollard. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so you'd.
I'd like to fill Gary Pollard's seat with Evan. I would make a motion to appoint Evan Howarth to,
And
the-
Andrew Dodwell.
we already did Andrew Dodwell. No.
We did.
No.
Okay, and Andrew Dodwell to the Harbors Committee.
Second that.
Is there any discussion?
And then we could keep the other letters on
Yes.
file? Okay.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Have a good night, guys.
It's nice to see some young people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I think that's because you put it ahead on the agenda last time. It worked.
Building Committee? Sorry, I'm just slow. We have Doug. Weren't we going to ask you to tell us who you would like to have on it? Did we not?
Well, you
say-
asked me, and I gave you our ex officio members that left, I believe, 2 public openings.
So
But
Doug.
you didn't actually send me out to go find
We
people.
didn't send you forth.
But I did go forth and ask Doug
You only went half forth.
because I would really like to start meetings in January.
Yes.
So
I would second that.
They did get a letter for.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
But I would also, we have a letter from Arlene Tunney who's interested. And I would like to make a motion that we appoint her.
Are there 2 slots open, or was it just?
Or only one? Is it only one?
One.
Okay, then we're done. Okay.
Okay. Conservation Commission.
We'll leave Arlene's letter on file.
Yes, but leave Arlene's letter on file. Absolutely. Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Nancy, you had a comment about the Transportation Safety Committee.
Correct.
Making it a little smaller. One of the, I'm in, by the way. I just don't know if we need to amend the resolution that we did to create this.
I guess that was my question. I know that Keith had put together a resolution and it listed, police department, rescue, medical center, license holder, town council member, rescue squad. And I said, it seemed to me that both the rescue squad and the medical center representatives didn't need to sit through all these meetings, that they had information that would probably be beneficial at some point in time, and they would probably be more comfortable in just being called if necessary. Whereas Transportation Safety Committee members, at least at the outset, I would think would be the police department, license holders, town council members.
I do like the rescue squad more than the medical center, just because they deal with the accidents.
Or
And-
could
On
we
the road.
replace the medical center with a member of the police advisory committee?
Sure. I'll tell you what, I'm going to agenda that resolution. We'll mark it up at our next meeting and have a
Okay.
consensus going forward. We have several vacancies. The Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire, which has been, 18 months now. Sewer and Water, which gosh, always interesting things. Coastal Resilience, if you recruit, we'd be very willing to hear. Juvenile Hearing Review Board, and a tree warden.
Ned has resigned. He doesn't want to take that on anymore.
Ned Phillips.
Ned Phillips Jr.
And is it true under that reading that you have to be an arborist?
Yes.
That's kind of limiting.
Yeah, within 6 months of being appointed or something along those lines.
Yeah,
There are?
I just had one at my house.
I think Riley Hobie is one.
Oh, that's a good idea. Discuss rules and procedure. Rules of procedure.
they look the same. So these are draft proposed rules of procedure for the town council for your consideration. And the highlighted items in yellow are new proposals for this year. Number 21, which considers that the council would not participate in electronic communications during public meetings. And this is really directed at primarily cell phone and email usage during the meetings. in order to ensure that everyone in the room has the benefit of all of the inputs of the conversation.
But what if we use it to read clerk base?
And so well,
So
I wouldn't consider that electronic communication. But
No, I think electronic communication with the public is how this is phrased, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not prohibiting electronic resources that you
So
may
when
use.
someone texts us and says, I can't hear, they'd have
And
to text you to say, I can't hear, or the video's gone out, or.
I don't think
there's gonna be a response. From the table.
I think the intent isn't so that, hey, listen, guys, the lights are up, we can't hear. I think the intent is that we don't have communications with just one individual. It'd be like someone sitting at the meeting and they're at home back and forth and the rest of the people don't hear. I think that's what the intent is. I don't think it's, you know, the Old Town Road is closed and someone texts and say, hey, Old Town Road's closed, or the video just went out. I think that's more of an information thing. But I think the intent is more so that, you know, someone doesn't text us asking questions, who will be here participating.
I do this all the time, so that's fine. It's fine not to, it's fine not to do it, but it wasn't a rule not to do it, so.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't. And yeah, it's an introduction to this.
Right.
So I hate to climb into my Wayback Machine, but I'm going to. When I was working in Connecticut around the legislature, lobbying, early on with the, relatively early on with the adoption of texting and emailing, the Connecticut General Assembly sort of went through this process, because what was happening is that individuals were literally lobbying legislators during the debate. and legislators were communicating back and forth with idiots like me out, either in the gallery or out in the lobby. And they ended up, not something I would suggest here, but they ended up basically, because they could do this with their server, saying you could have ClerkBase, you could have their version of ClerkBase, et cetera. But basically email was shut off, sort of all of that stuff was shut off. And I actually think it improves the process to do that. Too much to my chagrin.
You were cut off. Can I just bring up something before that 26? This just kind of amazed me. Number 11, okay. Items for a Monday meeting must be submitted to the clerk by noon on Wednesday prior to the meeting. But items for an agenda for an interim Wednesday meeting must also be submitted by noon on Wednesday. I mean, that makes no sense, because you'd have, can't we
Right.
push that up to like Friday?
I think, well, the goal actually is to be able to have that agenda out and available to the counselors before the weekend, regardless of the date of the meeting. So that's really what the intention was. I mean, this is a very lofty goal that we have in here. I can't say that these are operating.
But it was I think it was originally targeted for the newspaper, when the newspaper was the big source of information. Wednesday had to be the day that they got it to the paper. But in this day and age, I mean, yes, for the Monday meeting, but a week in advance for a work session,
It's just like I said, it's a lofty goal. It makes operations it just makes operations smoother if you can. We're still dealing kind of with that similar timeline. We can make amendments to that agenda all the way up until Monday, of course, 48 hours. But we usually like to try to have it settled before the weekend to the best of our ability.
As someone who struggles to, I won't even say meet these aspirational goals.
Yeah.
I do have in my mind that goal of making sure the council can review materials over the weekend so that they are not crunching their week. So I support that as something we are working towards. And I would be afraid that if we retracted our goals back, we may slide even further in our execution. That's my feedback.
Okay, I mean, the flip side of that is that if, you know, for a work session on a Wednesday, there might be things that are important that come in on a Thursday or a Friday.
And
Which we
that's,
can accommodate.
that's
We
the
do,
split
yeah.
between the aspirational and the practical
This
reality.
agenda being a great
Yes.
example.
Yeah.
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 This one was modified up until, I think, 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon, so.
Okay.
Who's doing comms?
So communications, we discussed a little bit at our earlier meeting. Again, this is sort of a first blush at codifying in written form some of those policies that we've all talked about over the years and gets to balance what's set forth in the charter about the responsibilities of the council, the manager, and the staff versus the fact that we live in a small community where it's natural to engage directly with department heads, and making sure that we're doing our best to keep that as a circle where the manager and the staff are coordinated in their conversations with council members. And I guess for the benefit of the public that isn't really here, but maybe listening, the council and staff and town manager had a conversation earlier today that was really productive. And now we sort of return back to our structure of aiming to filter communications through the manager and the staff and the manager together, responding to the entire council.
I mean, to me, the key piece is the direction, or frankly, the appearance of direction, which is maybe a little subtler, but I think is it's sort of like whatever the appearance, a conflict or the appearance of a conflict, is the phrase. So,
So basically, Amy's the only one who can order anyone to do
Yeah,
anything
I
but
think
direct.
I think it's important. I think
Yeah.
if whatever Keith Stover, any of us, Nancy Dodge, go back to Jen Brady's office and are particularly strident about an issue, that might feel like direction, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think.
I will say, in my recent experience, this works really well. In my previous experience with a different person in the town manager's office, it didn't work because there was no communication coming from that office. So, that's where all my emails went to die. And just gonna be totally honest about, things are working really super right now. And there is no need to feel like as a council member that you have to deviate to plan B, which is to go right to the department head. So anyway, the prompt communication that I'm getting from your office and Millie's office makes this really easy to follow.
So if I would just add to that if the council as a group or individually are feeling that way again, I would encourage you to come back to the manager first before resorting to plan B. Let's talk about it that way.
Sure. Separate issue, that one, you said something today, Amy, that I think is really important around being sensitive to the size of the community in which we live. So, you and I talked about this actually last week, because I was literally coming out of Oddfellows one morning, and Paul Dean was walking in and said, "I want to show you something." And to me, that kind of communication leads to better government. And I think that would not have been, in quotes, prohibited under this. But I do think that when we adopt something like this, we have to, be realistic about the fact that people do bump into one another, or, I might call Paul to find out whether he has seen the three big bucks at Southwest Point. I mean, that's sort of part of living in the community. And so I guess I would say back at you, if you feel like someone is inappropriately interacting, or I don't know, inappropriate is probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean. If someone's putting a stone in your shoe, then you have to tell us that, or tell the person that, please, because it can be hard to figure out, potentially, you could imagine
And
it
on
being
behalf of
difficult.
staff,
Yeah, right,
Might be feeling,
right, right,
might be feeling
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I bring that back to you.
right.
And the bottom line is there's informational conversation and there's operational conversation.
Right.
And I think
Yeah, that's a good description of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Do people want to vote on this evening? Would you like to take a look at it and come back? I'm comfortable with these changes, for me
Yeah,
personally.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes that are, oops.
David, I'm
Dave.
sorry, I forgot, David. Wait one second.
As you all know, I'm pretty sensitive. As you all know, I'm pretty sensitive to my hearing, and but it also makes me sensitive to what other people can and cannot hear. So where did we end up on that discussion of Millie or any of you receiving text messages from people who can't hear? Because
Oh, I see.
everybody was talking at the same time at that point in time, and I couldn't really actually figure out what was being
I think
agreed to.
I think Bill made a good point that we have to understand that there are things where someone might text you saying, "Hey, your house is on fire," or "I can't hear the microphone," or and that's understandable. But there's a difference between that and you really should change the shall to a may in this section.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that a
Yeah.
fair?
I've always wished I could do that. If I was always glad when somebody else was texting Millie and I was sitting there, because I've
Yep.
lamented the fact that there wasn't a good vehicle
Sure.
otherwise to facilitate everybody's ability to work with the system that is less than perfect.
In
So-
the interest of full disclosure, some woman named Susan Stover texted me this evening to say that microphone isn't working.
Ready for Susan.
She's got all the grand.
I know, right,
Watching
exactly.
you.
That's right.
But this refers to open meetings text. This isn't like my kid asking me where the paper towels are.
No.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with a meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like almost to Bill's previous phrase in different contexts, operational.
Yeah,
Versus
yeah, okay, I just want to
informational.
clarify that, because I don't want, yeah.
So a motion's been made and seconded to approve these changes to the rules of procedure of the town council. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Now I can't believe people left because I thought the room would be packed for this. Discuss and act on document storage and use policy.
This is exciting for those of us who would like to codify some policies. So again, this is, I think, the second technology policy that we're putting in place. You will see many more. This deals with how we handle particularly electronic documents and what the rules governing those are.
And this makes sense to all of to everybody? How'd you come up with this? Is there a sort of standard from the trust or something like that, or?
This part of this template came from Freedom Tech, and you might have gone through some other communities as well.
Right, gotcha. Can I have a motion to approve? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Financial reports. Mona, are you financial reports this evening? Mona, I thought you were terrific this afternoon. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
It's really, thank you.
I appreciate that. All right, so I'll just highlight a couple of things. The short-term rentals through November have, they're up to $44,930. So that's doing well. Jen talked about that today.
Mhm.
Collections are going really well. Looking at the hotel sales and meal tax, last month I reported that the hotel tax was down, cottage was up, and it's the same situation. So if you're looking like September of this month or this year compared to the prior year, hotel tax was down by almost 36%.
Wow.
But when I compared quarter to quarter, so July, August, and September of those 2 years, it was only down by 12%. So that felt a little more reasonable, not as drastic looking at it that way.
Stepping closer to the mic.
Sure.
Pull it up, it's really very sensitive.
Okay. So I felt looking at the quarters was a little more helpful, give a little bit of a better picture, because really it's all about timing when people are sending in their sales tax. Maybe some people are delinquent by months, you never know. So a lot of it has to do, relies on people sending in their taxes in a timely manner. As far as the cottage tax goes, that's up. So from year to year, month to month, it was up by 77%. And from quarter to quarter, it was up by about 65%. What's interesting when I look at the dollar figures from how much we're down in hotel tax and how much we're up in cottage tax, they're pretty much similar. They're 30,000. So I can only think that people, that's the clientele that are coming out there, kind of moving towards these alternate accommodations, whether that be rental houses or also, I believe, last minute type rentals, right? Hot wire, that kind of thing also would get captured in the cottage tax.
Interesting.
So they're just a different consumer.
Oh, so those sort of getaway tonight things are,
The phrase used
gotcha.
in the statute are room resellers.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then
read
as
that.
far
Yeah.
as the meals tax go, also down comparing the September of the 2 years, down by about 26%. But when I look at the quarter, again, our busiest months, it's only down by about 2%. So it doesn't seem too drastic.
Can I interrupt to ask
course.
to make a request of you and probably of Amy for when we go through the budget? I find for me, I nod my head a lot when we talk about cottage tax and a hotel tax and meal tax. Would you please be sure to include at least a little briefing once again? I know, believe me, this is the me issue, not a you issue. To explain how that all works, what the charges are, how they flow,
Definitely.
how we get, the state takes it and then pays a portion of it back to us. And I just think it would be worthwhile to baseline that again. Not tonight, just.
Those are always good reminders because we kind of forget what the public may know and
Right,
not know
yeah.
or what they're familiar with. So that's great.
I'll blame it on.
And along those lines, if you're looking at these financials here, if there's a different format or different information you'd like to see, we can accommodate that. I think each
Thank you.
council members have different tastes.
Yes.
Let's see, only a couple more things to draw your attention to. So on the human services, under that department, that's page 12. You're going to see that ride services, the way it's reflected here, it looks like they've exceeded their expense line, but actually that's not really telling the whole story. It's offset by about 2,000 of grant funds that are reflected on their grant revenue page.
I see.
And that's just, that rolled over from a 2024 transportation grant. So And then finally, capital tax, that's page 25. We've got the Coast Guard station. We've got about 18, let's see here.
So what should we do with the Coast Guard station?
Page
Wanna talk about
25.
that now?
Yeah, so $18,000 in expenses for this month, and that's actually the only portion of that entire amount that's been spent to date that doesn't have to do with the dock. So everything else is allocated to the dock or has been spent by the dock, but the 18,000 was something that Tom came up with, which was a great idea. He took the boiler from the Thomas house that was demolished because it was still had plenty of life left in it, and took it to the Coast Guard cellar, which needed, I don't even know the technicalities of it, but we're able to repurpose it and save a lot of money. So that's what's included there. It's not 100% dock, most of it.
So Mona, can I ask a question? So
Sure.
on the Coast Guard, so of that 150,000,
Mhm.
the 113 minus the 18 has been spent on the dock, correct?
Correct.
And so for improvements to the building itself, is the remainder of those funds going into, painting and so forth of the Coast Guard building itself? Because I don't think there was a detailed budget on what it was.
Yeah, the rest is either committed or is planned for functional repairs at the Coast Guard station. Mona mentioned the boiler. I believe there's also some septic upgrades that are happening, and the south wall is getting initial attention. What we are still working on refining prior to the budget season is how much work we can get out of the funds that we have today, and therefore what work is going to be defined for the fiscal year 26 budget. So we're putting that together right now.
So one of the things that was said publicly was about paint falling down and so forth. Will that be addressed before the housing for the summer people that are
Yes.
living in there?
So with the funds
Okay.
that we have remaining, the work that Tom mentioned today about the kitchen and some of the pre-summer habitation needs.
Yeah, this is some of
Yes.
the bedrooms, so forth.
Yep.
They said that was that type of thing.
There's,
Great.
just since we're talking about that facility, we are, sorry, Mona, to interrupt. We are waiting on the lead report for the Coast Guard station. That may present some issues that we need to deal with.
So what reporting?
Lead,
Oh, okay, thank you.
because it's a rental property. The initial field reports were actually much less intensive than we might
Really?
have expected.
It's just sigh of relief.
I know, but we don't have the written report, so I'm just
Yeah.
leaving that out there as a caveat. Right now, like I said, it went more smoothly than we would have thought, but we're waiting on the final written report, and that may dictate how the remainder of funds are spent this fiscal year.
And then under community support, there's a Coast Guard facility line, there's $25,000 there. Is that also for the facility itself, or?
Can I interject really? I'm sorry, Mona, just one thing, because you brought up the lead report. Is the town subject to that state registration of rentals?
That is our understanding, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry. Need you to one.
You'd like me to take that?
I don't remember this one, yeah.
Sorry, under 1060 community support, there is a Coast Guard station line, about $25,000, and that's basic, keeping the lights on, winterizing the boathouse functionality. It's not going to cover anything beyond keeping the doors open.
It's not capital.
It's not capital. It's
Right.
not even really operating maintenance, if you will, which is the things we should be doing annually, because we're needing to tackle right now those out of capital. They're really basic maintenance. And so the real maintenance costs of that facility it's not $25,000.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably closer to 150 to 200 a year that we should be doing at minimum to keep the facility from deteriorating. Does that make sense?
So,
Yeah.
No.
so Amy, when you set this budget up, there's obviously the capital budget, which are major improvements, the wall and so forth. And then you have, like any building does, it's minor painting, locks, turn the water on and off.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's what comes out of that line item, the 25,000? And then, so
Things like painting the south wall or rehabbing the kitchen
the
or the
bedrooms.
boiler or the septic are all coming out of capital. When really we know there are enough of them in each year that we should start using that, budgeting those as operating, even though in any given year it may be a capital asset that we acquire. A boiler might last 15 years, but we're working on developing a more robust maintenance plan that we can budget for appropriately in each year, I guess is the right way to
So
say
that
it.
maintenance would be turning the water on and off, maybe grading the driveway, those type of things that are. And that would be in the maintenance on the operating budget. And the capital budget would be renovation of the kitchen, the wall, the bigger project.
That's how we're doing it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
I have a couple.
No, that's it. That's it. You want more? I can find stuff.
Yeah. I have a
In
couple.
line 4296.
Been a long day.
So, Mona, on the contingency,
Mhm.
I think we had 66,000 budgeted. We're at 81. I don't know whether the 81 is that, do we know what that's, just,
That's going to be a few different things. And I think that I'm going to have to get back to you specifically on what they are.
Sure. And I can say in general, the largest portion of that, 60,000 plus, is going to be a payment that was made in July, which was the agreement between the sewer and the town council about resolution relative to Highview Lane. Mona can get back to you on the other elements, but that's the
I was just gonna see
majority.
what the bulk of that was. So we're over on that contingency by 14,000.
Yeah, some of the other expenses that are likely in there are probably related to the deployment of the fire alarms system, which technically is still a reimbursable insurance item. And so we're holding those expenses as when they come through in contingency. I think that's about the balance.
And I just had two other quick questions. When I looked at the salaries, most of them are at 38%, 40%. But on the harbor master's salary, the percentage paid year to date, the harbor master was at 31%. Is that?
That's,
So if you look at the majority of where it's single line,
mhm.
it's 38. That one was 31%, and I didn't know if that was because of contractual or.
I can jump in when you're, yeah. Okay. So when you think of the budget lines for any of the wages, remember that this budget was created prior to any resolution of the NSEA contract. So what's in there was still subject to negotiation and represented the town's position at a certain moment in time. For the harbor master in particular, that item represented a larger increase than what was ultimately negotiated. But that's why it's actually your budget number that was higher, so you're at a lower percentage of the
Gotcha.
budget.
Yep.
So we budgeted higher than we actually ended up negotiating out on.
Well, I can't actually say that because we haven't flowed the settled contracts
I
through
understand
yet.
the con- I understand the
Yeah.
concept. Yeah. And the last thing I had was, we had the payout of the town manager's past contract, and we also had some other dollar figures, like yourself and assistant and so forth. Do we, and I don't expect for this meeting, would it be possible to get a ballpark total of what that is, the dollar amount? And then more importantly is, where is that money going to come from? Are we going to, well, obviously it's not coming out of contingency because we've already exhausted that. So what in the budget is either gonna go without or where we had posed? And I think I had asked that while I know we were still in the works of trying to figure that out. So, and I don't expect that now, but if it's possible to get that, that would be great.
Yep, we can definitely
Thank you.
provide that. That's it. Anything else?
Thank you, Mona. And-
I,
Oh, you got,
yeah, I have one question now I've lost it.
you want me to sing the Jeopardy theme song?
Oh, here it is, in the under harbors, we were talking about that. 7420, maintenance refuse removal. Was budgeted for 35,000, paid out an additional 23,000. Was that a big item that?
Let's see.
Uh-oh.
Get rid of an abandoned boat.
Yeah, we had noticed that our the cost, the invoices coming from Byrne were totally more than usual. I believe there's been more pickups. It's a combination of things. There's been some more pickups and then also an increased cost there.
Mona, I would imagine that this doesn't reflect billing back to the 3 parties
Right.
that we
Right.
that we do. So we pay all of the bills and then back bill the boat basin and somebody else for that collection at the boat basin. So some of that does get recovered through other parties. And so at this point in the year, it's not reflecting
It's
that.
not reflected, okay.
Although all those things about the cost going up and the volume going up are still true.
Seriously.
And I have one last question. I think this is, ends on a good note. A few meetings back, a few months ago, 2 or 3, it was noted that the Thomas House will be anticipated to be $50,000 over budget. And then I think what I heard was a lot of that between in-kind work or from our own staff, that number was able to be brought down. We're back on budget. Is back on budget referring to the 50 over, or is it referring to what was allocated?
Sure. So that representation that the plan was running 50 over was an accurate statement, but we didn't have 50 to solve that problem with. We only have the funds that were authorized. So there was no such thing as going over budget. We had to find a way. So there has been work that's been done in-house. There's some scaling back of some of the scopes. And so we are working to expend every penny and not a penny more. That includes, landscaping that will probably come out of the operating budget when the time comes, or not until July. Other things that are being done with our own manpower. So it is sticking exactly to the dollars we have available because we don't have other dollars to draw from.
Great. And those adjustments haven't compromised the project, it doesn't sound like. So
That's been the goal, right?
that's hats off to those efforts.
And earlier today, we heard that it will go over time, like that it won't all be completed by the deadline. Will that be causing us to incur more costs, or is that?
That is something I still want to look into. It should not incur additional costs. Whether we have any recovery mechanism is something I want to ask as well, though, because there is a contractual deadline. So we'll work with the vendor to understand exactly what that looks like in a more concrete way.
Can I ask one question?
No.
Of course. You want to go ahead? I know. So when we heard that was going to be delayed, my next question is, we do have a manager's house. Is it worth it to kind of, rather than wait for the Thomas House to be done and a policy to be adopted, can we piecemeal it out and, take a look at least that? And I think he said the back building was going to be sooner.
So the council will see in January policies about how we go through the lottery process. I think in January, we also talk about what's happening next relative to a town manager. You don't want to fill that house and then need it occupied. So I think all those things are on the table about what we can offer first, how we get those filled, what the timeline is for completion on the 4 units. So we'll talk all of that in January.
Mona,
And-
thank you so much.
Yes,
Yes.
and so one last question, since we're talking about the procedure and the communications between staff and management or the council. What is the best method to return these answers to you all, would you say? Just an email that's going out to everybody? Also, the detail on the contingency line, for instance, or ballpark totals of the management transition. and the
My own
impact of that.
opinion is that when it's asked at this table, if you wouldn't mind emailing all of us, that'd be great, because I'd like to know that too. I think we'd all sort of like to know
Yeah,
that.
that-
Or email Amy, and Amy can, that's management finance director issue.
Yeah, right? Yep.
And-
We'll do
and
that.
My request on the overage and how we're gonna, that's fine. For me anyways, I was expecting it at our next meeting when you do your finance report.
Okay,
This way we all hear the same thing.
Yeah.
The public hears it too. I
Yeah.
think it's probably.
Got it.
And when we get the financial reports, I mean, is it easier for Mona if we email you some questions that we might have for that meeting night
I
so
would
that?
love to be prepared. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be able to research some of the numbers first.
Okay.
But I think on that, if the questions come in,
Mhm.
you'll either hold it, report it, or if it does come out, it just goes to everybody.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, Amy Land.
All right. Well, having spent hours
I know, I
together
was about to
today.
Is there anything here today that?
I'm gonna let the town manager's report speak for itself, with the exception of 3 items. I want to acknowledge the professional work that Millie has been doing with the New England City and Town Clerks Association,
Yes.
the Municipal Leadership Academy that Mona graduated from in November, which is an extraordinary
Yes.
achievement.
Excuse me, do you have a copy of that?
I don't, but you can
Yes.
have mine.
It wasn't.
So those 2 items for our personnel here. And then one thing that I did not include in the report was the change in holiday hours at the transfer station that everyone needs to be aware of. With Christmas and New Year's on Wednesday, they will be closed on Wednesdays and open on Tuesdays instead. And so I believe Charlene's been putting that on the bulletin board. It's on Berm's website, but don't want people to be surprised.
You know, Amy, I just have to say that I wasn't kidding when I said that I love those meetings like the one we had this afternoon with the department heads. It was so clear to me that there is a team. And just really want to acknowledge and thank you for that, because it was, there was no stiffness. It was conversational. It was, very clear that there's direction. I was really impressed. So thank you.
Thank you. We had a great
And
staff.
they clearly show pride in their
Yeah.
projects and their
It
departments.
was inspiring. Yeah, it was great. I have a motion to adjourn on that note. A
We
second,
don't have pride?
there's a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye, aye.